I guess our journey around the globe can't stop, won't stop, since people seem to like me talking about other locomotives that I would happily restore if I had the money. And I just want to stress two things. First of all, I don't have the money. I really don't. But even if I did, I wouldn't have an infinite amount of it. But this is all assuming that I do have just so much, just an insane amount. I don't, again, want to stress that. But if I did, maybe we'll take it over to Australia, the land down under, and see if any of their locomotives might be wanting to run again. These are 5 Australian locomotives that I would restore to operation if I had the money, which I definitely don't. The New South Wales E17 class. This is a type of steam locomotive built by the Robert Stephenson and Company for the New South Wales Government Railways of Australia. All the way back in 1865. There's only one currently in preservation, and withdrawals of them began as far back as 1889. These are a very old type of steam locomotive, but they switched hands numerous times, and actually 2 of them wound up back in New South Wales ownership. But the one we really want to focus on is number 18. She was sold to the Southern Coal Company at Kamal in 1897. She was dismantled to be overhauled in 1963 when the company was bought, and the repairs to her were never actually finished. But she was kept around. They decided to donate her to the then brand new New South Wales Rail Museum, where she remains as of August 2020 on static display. As a very old steam locomotive, naturally it would be nice to see her run again, and the fact that she was in the middle of an overhaul tells me that, well, frankly, that doing that would be possible. I mean, obviously it's hard to say exactly, but that is a good sign. So hey, just something to think about. Locomotive number 1. Oh yeah, she's number 1. She's number 1. And yes, quite literally, she's number 1. Also built by Robert Stephenson Company, this locomotive is credited with hauling the very first passenger train in New South Wales, and as such dates back quite a long time. She was delivered in January of 1855, and last ran in 1877, when she was finally retired. Lucky for her, she was in fact donated to a museum, and has undergone a static restoration over time. She's definitely old, but it would be nice to see her move again. The problem I would imagine is, well, it's a couple things. A, someone pointed this out last time, and you have a point. Sometimes when it comes to the really old steam locomotives, it's honestly better if they just don't run. And the reason for this, especially if they're one of a kind and very historically relevant, well, them moving puts them at risk. It's just as simple as that. I mean, obviously, if things are handled well, it should be fine, but accidents do happen, and you certainly wouldn't want to risk that with something that's, well, kind of important. And I would consider number 1 falling into that category. Plus, given her age, it's hard to say what it would cost to fix her. So yeah, there's a lot of factors going against the possibility of putting number 1 back into service, but, if I had the money, maybe I'd look into it. I'm just saying. Nothing wrong with giving it a shot. New South Wales Wallaby. And yes, I know, there's a lot of New South Wales in this list. I apologize. Don't worry, they're not the only thing we're going to talk about. And I must admit, I chose Wallaby for an exceedingly stupid reason. Look at the baby. She's so cute. I mean, come on, this is an adorable tank engine. I'm just saying. She's one of a kind, and she's sitting on static display at the Illawarra Light Railway Museum. And she's undercover and kept in good condition. But come on, let the baby move. Let the baby move. She's a baby. An over 100-year-old baby, so she was built in 1913. But she's a baby. Let her move, please. Come on, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. Z1243. Yeah, it's New South Wales again, I'm sorry. This is a Z12 class steam locomotive built back in 1882. And they were decent for their time, lasting until the 1950s, though only 10 were still in service by 1954. I kind of like the look of her. She's a very old-school looking steam locomotive, and I'm just like, we can rebuild her. We have the technology, but we don't have the financial support. And she was actually an operational exhibit for the new South Wales Rail Transport Museum. She has done this sort of thing before. But in September of 1987, she was placed on permanent display at the Powerhouse Museum in Ultimo, Sydney. And it does specify permanent display, and therefore I can only assume that there's something wrong that none of my research has made it clear about. I'm assuming it involves the words prohibitively and expensive. That's my best guess. So, yeah, she's unlikely to move ever again. But as is the case with everything on this list, I would like to see it, you know. The Victorian Railways H class, otherwise known as Heavy Harry. If you didn't honestly expect me to put this locomotive on this list, you are kidding yourselves. There was only one of this type of locomotive ever produced, nicknamed Heavy Harry, and numbered H220. She was operated by the Victorian Railways from 1941 to 1958. She was meant to eliminate the need for double heading on the rail line. And she is, in fact, the largest locomotive ever built in Australia and the largest non-articulated steam locomotive to run on Australian railways. She is Big Chungus. Her wheel arrangement is 484, technically making her a northern. An attractive effort sits at 55,000 pounds of force, but that's at 85% boiler pressure, which implies that she could go beyond that. Despite being one of a kind, she was actually a fairly successful locomotive, though she never got to do exactly what she had been designed for originally. But her power wasn't to be questioned. She could pull trains really well. And she lasted in service until dieselization, 15 years and 3 months, averaging over 4,800 miles per month during that time. But fortunately, she was preserved. In 1960, the Australian Railway Historical Society lobbied for the establishment of a railway museum, and Heavy Harry entered the museum in 1962. Given her size, she's a star exhibit at the location, and it's actually believed that she's the world's only remaining example of a 3-cylindered 484. As you can imagine by all of this, I see Heavy Harry and I'm like, yes! Yes! Light the firebox! Get the steam pressure up! It's time for us to roll out! But naturally that would be ridiculously expensive, and I totally understand this. But man, wouldn't it be cool? Tell me it wouldn't be cool. Seeing this beast on Australia's rail lines again! You fire up Heavy Harry, you cowards! She's just sitting there, just like Madam Queen. They're both in the same boat. Such incredible, unspeakable power. Wasted? If I had the money, I would solve this problem. But I don't, so, you know, Heavy Harry's gonna have to chill for a while. But she is in a safe place, as are all the locomotives on this list, so I guess we should be grateful that they're still around at all. And with that, a special thank you to all my underwater train finders, Some Dude 267, Orange Glass, Benjamin Owens, Anzac A1, Arthur Roy, Brian, Jack Carson's Railroad Videos, Lord R444, A Person 723, Royal Hudson 2060, Eisner for 1405, Charles Kwiatkowski, Matt Weaver, Tom Redlion, NS Productions 8104, Wheeljack 8401, Rescues Greyhounds, The Baxter, Caleb Crosswhite, Andrew Bowen, Josh Johnson, Caleb Rainwaters, Prez Drenton, Master of None, Travis Zielinski, Jared Brussel, Joshua Long, Tommy Rossini, Ben McCullough, Panzer Kitson 131-232, Mark Holding, Dr. Racer 78, G Wiz, Mr. Terevel, Liam Wright, Hayden DeGrow, Metal for Life Guy, Battle 604, Hannah Bird, Railroad Preserver 2000, No, Eric Hutton, Williard Conklin, Kurt Forkham, Ohio Trucker 1, Mitchell Cole, and of course, my dad. Till next time, this is Darkness, and I bid you all a fun farewell.